With the modern Pro Tour and Commander Masters 2 behind us, the Magic community turns its sights to the upcoming World Championships taking place at MagicCon Las Vegas next month, as both leaks and official spoilers for the upcoming set, Wilds of Eldraine, began dropping last week. As usual, there is a lot for Magic players to sink their teeth into with this new set, so let's start by taking a look at some of the more interesting cards that have been revealed. Starting off strong, our first new card is the one and only Planeswalker in the set, Ashyok Wicked Manipulator. That's right, it was announced that there will only be one Planeswalker printed in each set going forward, which means Ashyok Wicked Manipulator has a pretty big role to fill. Weighing in at a hefty 5 mana, including 2 black pips, with a +1 ability that draws a card and a -2 ability that puts 2 bodies onto the battlefield, it's hard not to immediately compare Ashyok to Lolth, Spider Queen, another powerful planeswalker that saw some competitive standard play. Slotting into the top end of a black-based control deck seems like a fine home for her in standard. However, it's Ashyok's static ability that differentiates it from its predecessor and may put it over the top. For example, she may be combined with a card like Staff of Completion to powerful effect. In a format like Commander, things get really spicy. It should prove trivial to deck oneself with Ashyok Wicked Manipulator plus cards like Plunge into Darkness, Wall of Blood, Deepwood Ghoul, Hatred, etc., while having a Thassa's Oracle in play to just win the game. Or you could just slam an Aetherflux Reservoir and dome your opponent for 50 damage immediately. It's also interesting that Ashyok cares about all the cards you own in exile, not just ones put there by the Planeswalker itself. That means adventures, of which there are plenty in Wilds of Eldraine, as well as older mechanics like Imprint, will also grow the Nightmare creature tokens that Ashyok produces, as well as contribute to the number of cards she can exile from an opponent's deck with her ultimate ability. How large an impact this solo planeswalker will have remains to be seen. Another powerful black card that was spoiled last week is Beseech the Mirror. Since Demonic Tutor was printed in the very first Alpha Magic set, being able to search your library for a card has always been one of the most powerful things one can do in a game of Magic the Gathering, so anytime one of these tutor effects is printed, it deserves some serious scrutiny. At 4 mana, including 3 black pips, Beseech the Mirror isn't easy to cast, and having to pay the bargain cost by sacrificing another artifact, enchantment, or token introduces another hoop to jump through, but the result is almost certainly worth it. Having no restriction on what type of spell you can pull from your deck makes Beseech quite powerful. In Standard, it can become copies 5 through 8 of Sheoldred the Apocalypse, one of the best creatures in the format. In Modern, it also becomes extra copies of the most powerful card in that format in the One Ring, which can not only come down and clear a previous One Ring that may have become a burden on a player's life total, but is also cast for free off of Beseech in order to enable the protection from everything clause again. Getting the best planeswalker in the format, Karn the Great Creator, seems pretty good too. Also, a quick reminder, you cannot cast the back half of Transform cards like Tibalt Cosmic Imposter, despite the front side costing less than 4 mana. That said, this card will almost certainly see some competitive constructed play, so start brewing. Now for a card that will be the last card played in many games of Magic, Moonshaker Cavalry. At a staggering 8 mana with 3 white pips and the ability to give your entire team evasion and pump them up for lethal damage when it enters the battlefield, this card is almost exactly like a white Craterhoof Behemoth, the finisher of choice for green-based ramp decks in almost every format. While white doesn't have access to the glut of cheap mana-producing creatures that green does, it can still go very wide very quickly, and it won't take very many 1 or 2 mana humans to kill you out of nowhere once Moonshaker Cavalry sends them to the skies. Not having haste itself is a big drawback when compared to Craterhoof Behemoth, and being in a color that may struggle to get to 8 mana will be an issue deck builders must face when trying to find a home for the Cavalry. Perhaps reanimating Moonshaker will be the most effective way to abuse this powerful card, but regardless of how it gets there, the Cavalry will almost certainly end most games when it resolves. Spells weren't the only things spoiled, as it was revealed that a new cycle of dual-mana creature lands will be released into the Wilds of Eldraine. While making 2 different colors of mana is nice, the fact that they all come into play tapped almost certainly means they won't see any play in formats like Pioneer and Modern. These were clearly supposed to take the place of some of the mana-fixing lands that were going to rotate with the release of Wilds of Eldraine, and thus their impact is diminished by the lack of rotation. However, some of them will definitely be finding homes in standard decks, as having a way to continue to pressure your opponent's life total or planeswalkers after a sweeper effect is still as powerful as it's always been. Currently, only colorless producing lands like Mishra's Foundry and Mirrex fill that role in standard, so these new creature dual lands will be a welcome addition. Will they all see play? That remains to be seen, though at this point, Restless Vinestalk, Restless Cottage, and Restless Bivouac seem the best to me. And just for fun, here is a silly little infinite damage combo that you can try to pull off in Standard once Wilds of Eldraine arrives. It starts with a turtle. Blossoming Tortoise is a card that not many people outside of Commander are talking about, but in Standard, he can do some powerful stuff. With a Tortoise and a Mishra's Foundry in play, you can activate Foundry, then cast Draconic Destiny on it to send it to the air to avoid being blocked, while also pumping it infinitely due to the discount from Blossoming Tortoise, killing your opponent in one shot. While this becomes more difficult to pull off once your opponent knows it's coming, there are still ways to force it through using cards like Tamiyo's Safekeeping or Tivar's Stand, or maybe branching into blue for counter magic. Either way, it's the kind of silly nonsense that is always fun to see exist in Standard. Are there any crazy combos out there that you've heard about? Which Wilds of Eldraine cards do you think will have the most impact? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content.